Nothing stops us from giving the story. We ask the pertinent questions.
Are they from his life experiences or are they biological?
We deliver testimonies.
And told him, I need you to connect me to a therapist because the next time I crash, I am sure I'm going to commit suicide.
We encourage.
We should not stigmatize. We should not discriminate against others.
Praise the good and condemn the bad.
It's just a representation of the face of what is going on to very many young people.
We give freedom.
This was my plan. Nimemaliza kusoma, sasa pesa yenye nitakuwa na make, sasa ni kuanza kujijenga kimaisha.
This is a story of hope. Freedom from the mental cage.
Dub Radio on the know.
Mental health disorders affect 13% of the world's population. These numbers could increase as people around the world shelter in place and adjust to a new normal amid the coronavirus pandemic. This is according to a research done by singlecare.com in the year 2021. In a report compiled by Our World in Data in the year 2018, 970 million people worldwide have a mental disorder. According to JAMA Psychiatry report of the year 2015, mortality rate of mental disorders is significantly higher than the general population, with a median life expectancy loss of 10.1 years. The JAMA Psychiatry report also finds out that it is estimated that mental disorders attributes to 14.3% of deaths worldwide, or approximately 8 million deaths each year. Here in Kenya, a report released by World Health Organization on 23rd May 2021 estimates that 1 out of 4 persons who seek healthcare in Kenya have a mental health condition, with depression being common and use of alcohol and substance abuse being on the increase. On the realm to explain what mental health is, its conditions and factors leading to it, I meet several stakeholders both in the psychiatry departments, in various health institutions, and also testimonies from persons who have been able to manage their mental health conditions here in Kisumu County. Eastern AM, and I'm taking a walk along a dusty road from Kimo School to Obola Junction in Migosi Estate within Kisumu County. On the phone, I'm talking to Dr. Rafael, who is a clinical officer specialized in mental health and psychiatry in Kisumu County Referral Hospital in the psychiatric unit. And he explains to me the eminent factors causing poor mental health, and generally we are discussing with him about mental health. Dr. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
So, just a quick one. Will you please elaborate to us what mental health is?
Mental health is a state of well-being where an individual realizes can be able to cope with the normal and work productively and fruitfully, able to make a contribution to their community. There are many factors that can contribute to mental illness.
Yes.
For example, genetics. We find that most mental illnesses run in families.
Yes.
They could be inherited.
Yes.
Then our life experiences also play an important role in whether we develop mental illnesses, like when we have stresses of life.
Yes.
History of abuse, especially if such happens in childhood.
Yes.
And can result into mental illnesses.
Dr. Rafael Wavura, having explained the social and environmental factors causing mental health conditions, Councillor Mike Wajengu, who's an advocacy officer and a councillor for Tinada Youth Organization, whose major thematic area is mental health, comes in handy with an emphasis on the same.
Before we define mental health,
Yes.
I will start with a misconception that is normally out there.
Yes.
Many people, when they talk about mental health, they just think about mental illness, but they call it mental health. Because mental health is a state of well-being that includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being.
Yes.
So in this, it covers both extremes.
Yes.
A person who has good mental health and a person who has poor or bad mental health. So mental health is a very neutral term
Yes.
that is about the whole. It's about mental health in entirety, covering both poles, the North Pole and the South Pole, the positive and the negative. That is.
Sure.
So now, when defining mental health, then again we always go back to WHO.
Yes.
And the WHO definition is a state of well-being in which people realizes his or her own abilities and cope with normal stresses of life.
Yes.
Can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So in that, we see that there is the aspect of it's a state of well-being, whereby one can be able to realize their ability, what they can do.
Yes.
They can cope with the normal stresses of life. There's an aspect of coping.
Yes.
And this is very key because in life, stresses are there. Sometimes we go to work, we have a lot of work to do, that can even give us stress. Poor mental health can be caused by a variety of factors, a myriad of factors.
Yes.
And the other interesting thing about causes of poor mental health
Yes.
is that sometimes it is caused by more than one factor, but I will explain that.
Yes.
So some of the most common causes of poor mental health
Yes.
revolve around childhood issues. That is, if someone experienced abuse when they were a child, they experienced trauma,
Yes.
or they experienced neglect when they were a child. That aside, also there is other causes like, let's say, social isolation,
Yes.
or loneliness.
Yes.
And this can come about as a result even of another mental health condition, that is. Because like depression makes people to isolate. Someone doesn't want to be with people because they want to be alone. They feel like people do not understand them.
Yes.
That people will not get what they are going through.
Alcohol and substance abuse is one of the major factors that contributes to high cases of mental health conditions within West Kenya, as Councillor Mike puts it.
The gene that causes a mental health condition inside you.
Yes.
So sometimes it can be dormant, and then something comes and triggers it. Now, one of the key triggers is drugs and substances, alcohol and drug abuse. That is a major trigger of mental health conditions. So, alcohol and drug abuse can cause mental health conditions.
Yes.
Or they can trigger hereditary or genetic mental health conditions to manifest. Now, looking into our region,
Yes.
the Western Kenya region, the Nyanza region,
Yes.
then when you look at even the data that is around,
Yes.
one of the biggest causes of mental health conditions is alcohol and drug abuse. That is one of the biggest factors that contribute towards mental health conditions around Kisumu, around this area.
Nonetheless, Dr. Raphael also has a take on this.
Another important issue that causes mental illness currently is use of alcohol and other substances of abuse. In Kisumu, basically, we have seen most from life experiences.
Yes.
Lately, especially with relation to COVID and also what we call gender-based violence.
Yes.
Or domestic problems, problems at home. They have resulted to many cases of depression and also traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
In fact, in the county hospital,
Yes.
there is a research project on depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. It's called Smart Data program.
Yes.
And I happen to be part of that program too. So we have been able to see close to 2,000 people who are suffering from depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. That figure is very high.
Yes.
And most of them who come to this clinic in particular, they have suffered loss of income related to COVID and also intimate partner violence.
Yes.
Such cases of post-traumatic stress disorder and even depression.
Though not automatically conclusive, there are signs and symptoms that when spotted on oneself or to another person, it's advisable to seek mental health support. Let's listen in to what Dr. Raphael and Counselor Mike says respectively.
So the most important symptom, particularly, is if there is somebody who has changed, who has recently changed their known behavior. You know the person to be behaving this way, and that behavior has changed, a significant change in behavior.
One of the ways that is the simplest way to notice that someone maybe has a mental health condition is normally when they deviate from their norm. Signs of mental illness cannot be looked at in isolation. You don't just look at one and say, now because he's showing this, then he has a mental health condition. You have to look at a number of them. But one of the most common factors is that you just look at deviation from the norm. Let me explain this. You notice that you are a friend to Mike. Now, and you are used to Mike. Mike is a very talkative person, is very lively. He jokes a lot. He likes maybe playing pool, playing football. He likes watching football also. You normally even go to watch matches with him. They're the things that you do that to just enjoy yourself. And then all of a sudden you realize that Mike stops doing these things. So you realize 1 week passes, that happens. Another week passes, that happens. Another week again passes, and that is the routine. Then you know that there's something that is not right. Because in the period that you have known Mike, let's say for 10 years, he has been in a certain way, and then all of a sudden he has changed. So that deviation from the norm, it can even be in sleeping patterns. You see, you can notice that maybe Mike used to sleep well, but now he's not even getting any sleep. Then you start and look at it and say that maybe there must be an underlying issue. And so you even try to look at to look at Mike and even just try and understand, is there something that is happening with Mike? I was using myself as an example. But again, there are those symptoms that are out there also that you can be able to look for. One of them is what we call excessive paranoia. Excessive paranoia or worry or anxiety. Anxiety in itself, anxiety is good in moderate amount. Because anxiety is part of what we call the fight and flight response. That is, ukiona shida, unachangamka, unajitoa pale.
Exactly, you try to find a solution for yourself.
Yes. But when you realize that it's going beyond, now you realize that someone maybe has what we call panic attacks. Ile yenye unashtuka mpaka inabidi mpaka you cannot move, you cannot do anything. Unakaa tu pale unatetemeka, heartbeat imechange, unasikia kifua ni kama roho inataka kutoka, inapiga kweli kweli. Then that is realize that is a problem.
Most mental health cases are not curable but treatable. This literally means there is a mechanism and ways of managing mental health conditions. Counselor Mike has been into these shoes.
Nimepata ya kujikimu, lakini ni safari ya kila siku. It's about taking that step every day. Because one of the saddest things is that most mental health conditions and psychosocial disabilities, they are not curable, but they are treatable. A very big difference. They are not curable, but they are treatable.
But
They are treatable. Yes. Curable kumaanisha hakuna ile siku moja utasema ati ya kwamba sasa kabisa nimepona kabisa. So you have to manage it. Treatable in ile namna ya kwamba ukikuwa kwa medication, you can be able to manage it and live normally with the help of just medication and even changing behavior, knowing your triggers. Knowing what to avoid.
Numia's Kitty, a 27-year-old lady and a university graduate, is a patient living with bipolar mood disorder. She shares her story of hope.
My name is Numia's Kitty. I'm 27 and I'm a diagnosed bipolar mood disorder patient.
When you say you are diagnosed bipolar, please, will you just try to elaborate in simple terms, because somebody might ask what is bipolar? Okay,
bipolar is a mood disorder. It's a mental illness that affects the brain, such that the brain does not produce a balanced the balanced hormones, the moods. So where normal human beings have, varied moods. Like you can be sad when something bad happens, and you can be happy when something good happens. People with bipolar mood disorder tend to have that confused. Sometimes they become so sad with no reason at all, or if something bad happens, they become too sad, like beyond normal. Or sometimes they just become too happy. So when you're sad, we call that the depressive episode. And when you're too happy, it's called the manic or the hypomanic episode. So it's two extreme ends of moods. That's why it's called bipolar, two. Yeah. I was diagnosed bipolar when I was an adult. I was 25. But the first time somebody told me I had a problem, I was I think 21 or 22. A friend of mine told me that I need to seek mental help. You see, the people around you are the ones who normally get very affected. So she was a really close friend of mine, and she was like, you really need help. So she took me to a therapist she knew. I had a session, and the therapist told me to come back, but I was like, nah, I'm not going back. Therapists have this way of making you feel like they're pouring into your soul. So I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. So when I was 25, I think those 3-4 years I had stayed, I had noticed a pattern. I'd have this 1 or 2 weeks where I'm extremely positive. I am very happy. I'm like unbeatable, invincible, like nothing can stop me. Yeah. And then like today I'd be so happy. In those 2 weeks, I've been happy like the whole time. Even when something bad happens, I'd be like, it's okay, bad things happen. You can just move on. And then the next morning I have crashed completely, and nothing seems to matter anymore. I'm just there. I just want to die, and it happened. I had noticed that. So when I was 25, I woke up one day, I was so happy, and it hit me. I remember texting the brother to this friend of mine who took me to a therapist, because ilikuwa ni organization yao. And told him, I need you to connect me to a therapist, because the next time I crash, I am sure I'm going to commit suicide. Because I had already attempted several times before. So this time I was like, I am sure I'm going to go through with it. If I don't get help, I might actually kill myself. So this guy gave me Dr. Raphael's number. That's when I went to see Dr. Raphael. So we had, I think, a 2-hour session with Dr. Raphael. And then he told me, what will be your take? What's your take on mental health issues? I'm like, I don't know. I know people have mental health issues, but what if I told you had one? And I was like, I don't know. Would you be open to taking medication? I was like, I'm not sure. Like, okay, fine. From everything we've had, I think you have bipolar mood disorder. And if not checked, you'd actually crash, and you might actually end up harming yourself. So I think it's from then that's how we started, having sessions, trying to understand myself and how the illness is affecting my life, my relationships, my work relationships, and all that. And it has been 3 years of goodness.
We
From
can call it
2018.
success.
Yeah. From 2018 October. I still remember 2018 October to date. I've been on medication. The medications are changed depending on your moods. Sometimes you can be too high, so you're given moods to lower. You're given medication to lower your moods. When you're too low, you're given moods to at least elevate your moods.
To achieve the balance.
Yes,
now.
to achieve the balance. Normal humans, you have to have balance. When you're bipolar, you don't have that balance. And it's weird, because when you're depressed, you can end up harming yourself. We're normally so suicidal.
It's kind of you are getting into extreme ends.
Yes.
It's either you are too much happy,
exactly,
or you are too much sad.
Exactly. And that's when you're too much happy, you feel invisible. So you end up doing risky behaviors, because you feel like nothing can touch you, nothing can harm you. So people end up risky sexual behaviors, risky substance abuse, unajua vitu kama hizo. So the balance is important.
Which I believe, when you talk about substance abuse, remember it's also one thing that leads to poor mental health again.
Yeah. When you're drowning, when you're going into that lower end,
yes,
you're afraid of reaching out to people because you're afraid of being branded as being too much or being a burden. So you just withdraw from everyone and just stay alone and stay with your thoughts. And it's easy to act on your thoughts when no one is there to support you.
Sure.
So when you have people to support you, even if they won't be telling you anything, but watakuwa tu wamekaa na wewe, like, do you need water? Akulete. Because then again, when you're down there, you don't eat. Sometimes I remember the days I would stay for 3 days in the house, locked, no food. I won't even get out of bed. I won't go to shower. I won't do anything. I'll just be in bed. So imagine somebody like that now, and you have no one to help you. You see how bad it can get, yeah. So having lived with the condition right now, I look at my friends. Kuna how people communicate. Somebody who's sad will never say happy things. Sometimes even when they're saying happy things, you can hear in their voices, or kuna vile atasema, it'll be just like haha, but you can see that this person is not happy. So you try to reach out to them, vitu kama hizo. For people who are not maybe diagnosed, you just advise. Maybe you should see a doctor, see a therapist, see a psychiatrist. Maybe they can help you, because sometimes, trust me, no matter how much you say, sometimes you can't help a person. It took me going tacky on my meds for a whole year and then crashing so bad, I almost beat up somebody I love.
Whoa.
You see, when I started taking meds, Dr. Raphael used to see me frequently. Like every week, he'd be like, come back. We talk about how the week was, then to know which meds you're taking. Weekly. So after a while, like I think 2-3 months, I started stabilizing. So now I'm not shifting within moods too quickly. So he's like, no, you're fine. I'm giving you this. I think the dose was for 2 months. After 2 months, you'll come back and then we'll review you. So I went, and then one morning I just woke up and I was like, I'm tired of meds. I don't want to do this, Plus anyway, I'm okay. Yeah. So I stayed for, I think, 8 months. No meds, nothing. I'm not taking meds. And I actually felt okay. Like, I'm okay. Dr. Raphael would call me, hey, are you coming? I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm just busy. Nitakuja. And then one morning I woke up and I remember I was so irritable. Somebody aliangusha tu kikombe. Like, alinipita kagonga kikombe. My goodness. I lashed out so bad. Hadi akanambia, this is not you. Are you okay? I took a breath and I was like, I don't know. So it was a whole week of aggressiveness. High aggressiveness. Until sasa nikamketisha chini, nikamwambia, okay, sawa, this is the thing, I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I'm thinking maybe all these reactions is just
part of the
exactly,
condition I'm going through.
Maybe I should go back to the hospital. So he was like, fine. He came with me to the hospital. Dr. Raphael now talked to him about how to live with a spouse who is bipolar.
Sure.
And then sasa, I think it is at that moment when I realized that I could have potentially hurt him, that I realized maybe I should just face the fact that this is something that I have to live with and have to manage with meds and therapy so that I don't hurt anyone else. This is a person you live with. And actually from then, even when the episodes come, we call them episodes. You have this time of stable moods when you're okay, like normal, okay, for normal people, and then sasa the episodes where sasa you're either too sad or too happy. So when the episodes come, we have learned to manage them. Mental illness is not just bipolar. The depressed, there's anxiety, there's so much on the spectrum, yeah. And it's really hard for somebody to sit down and say, okay, sawa, niko na shida, or even seeking help. You need to accept that I have a problem. Ndio hata ukienda seek help, you will accept that help. So I told you I was taken to a therapist once and I never went back until I realized this thing will actually kill me at some point. I didn't know I had a mental illness, but I just knew when my moods, I have times when my moods are so high and sometimes my moods are so low, and when they're low, I have attempted suicide several times. So first you have to accept that I have a problem. And that is a personal journey. You have to look into yourself and say, I have a problem. Then the next step is to seek help. You can go to hospital. Like I know Kisumu County Hospital, they have amazing psychiatric help there. Since that's where I've always been getting my help anyway. By the way, if there's one thing I loved about seeking help is that nobody who tried to help me ever judged me. Most people are afraid. The society has this thing of the moment you say you have mental health, you're dubbed crazy, you're dubbed kona vituko, you see. So people are also afraid of that judgment from outside. When you seek help, the doctors don't judge you. The therapists don't judge you. They actually accept you for who you are. Ata ukienda, there are some days I'd go to Dr. Raphael's office and just lie like this and be like, no, I'm just so done. And be like, it's fine. Take your time. What do you want to talk about? That is acceptance. When you're accepted like that, it's easy to even accept your situation. But just accept yourself. Ujiangalie ujue niko na shida. By the way, I have a problem. Then seek help to the right people. There's also this thing of only talk to people who validate your experience. I think after diagnosis and after meds and after accepting that this is something that I have to deal with forever, I've started writing again. I've started educating people. I've gotten back my creative streak back. So
Mashallah, alhamdulillah.
So things do get better. Just because you're mentally ill does not mean you cannot be successful in life. And I know many people, we even have a community of, people with bipolar. Currently, I've focused on sasa writing. I do full-time writing. Kwanzia asubuhi hadi jioni. Like literally, watu wakiamka kuoga kienda ofisini, mimi naamka na kunywa chai, keti na laptop kazi. And actually, I can't complain. So, if ninge keti ni and sob, and just allowed the loss of job to actually take over me, maybe I wouldn't have come this far.
Sure.
But here I am now. As in ata, you see, kurudi job ilikuwa nipate sasa more money ya kufanya sasa research because classwork nilikuwa nimemaliza. So now I have saved. Now I have started working on my research sasa. So I'm saying shouldn't lose hope. As in,
that is it.
Losing a job is not the end of life, because in as much as that's your hapo ndo maybe kuna kula, hapo ndo kuna somesha nani, I think the most important thing is accepting that things will happen. Bad things will happen to you, good things will happen to you. Just have the grace to accept them and then decide what next from here.
Love, just literally the way it is the most important ingredient that we as a society should offer persons having mental health conditions. Although stigma and seclusion has been witnessed, it's time that we embrace this important step, as Councillor Mai concludes.
So the most important thing is that we should embrace love. And when I say love, is that we should not stigmatize. We should not discriminate against others who may be having a mental health condition or any other condition in life. Any other situation, someone in a situation, in a bad situation or a dire situation, we should not stigmatize them or discriminate against them, but rather we should open up our arms and embrace them and help them to stand up again. Because if we are able to tackle stigma, then more people will be able to be coming out with the issues that they are facing to seek help. One of the biggest barriers towards people speaking out and seeking help is normally stigma and discrimination. We are working with the government to try and tackle stigma and discrimination through education campaigns, whereby we do campaigns even in the media, like today we're doing an interview, just trying to break down the information for the public so they can be able to understand what mental health is, and so that they can be able now to explain it better or differently from how they understood it, and help that person who is suffering.
Yes, to our grateful listeners who listen to their experiences that we go through our daily lives. So at the end of the day, like in Swahili saying, we say, sisi wote ni waasiriwa. We are all into this issue. Now, the ball rolls in our court. We really need to take charge of our lives. And like Noya says, people will treat you badly, but it will take them a few seconds, even less than a second, to move on. Now, the ball is on your court. What about you? How long will it take you to move on? It's a story of hope, a story of light, freedom out of the mental cage. This feature has been compiled and produced by Ahmed Khalif Olieng for Dub Radio.
Dub Radio on the know.